Another challenge of many writers is linking scenes together. Transitions can be particularly troublesome in making sure that it makes sense, doesn't kind of chop up or destroy the flow of your story. A lot of writers that I talk to say, well, I've got all this sequence of events that we're going through, but I don't know how to tie them together. And I don't know how exactly to explain the transitions, but there are some ways that you can do it, especially if they're action and conflict sequences and you're kind of wanting to slow things down, moving from one concept to another. A good way to do that, I use it a lot, is an internal point of view. So there's this series of internal events that happen inside your character's head. I think one of the great things about writing is that you can actually convey those internal events to your reader, which makes reading much more in depth. And I think that 9 times out of 10, that's why the book is always better than the movie. Because there is something lost whenever you can't exist inside the character's head. I know whenever I was reading the Hunger Games series, that was a big part. I read it before the movies came out. Um, and there was a lot of internal processes that Katniss went through throughout that book, and they were very deep and very meaningful. But on the outside, she was very brash and kind of standoffish. So I'm trying to think, as I'm reading the book, how are they going to do this in a movie? How are they going to convey, some of these things that are going on internally? Obviously, you can't have an internal monologue in a movie. And I think that some of that was definitely lost in translation. And I think that happens a lot of times between books and movies, and we don't even realize that that's what's missing, is that internal connection, like you as a reader actually inside the head of the character. Um, so there are some thought processes that go through this internal point of view. Um, so there's definitely emotion. So there can be an emotional response to an action that happens, in the aftermath. How does the character feel about this terrible thing that has just happened? How does it affect them? How deep does it affect them? If something bad has happened, is there some kind of a lingering, you know, paranoia maybe, or maybe it's a sadness of losing another character. So you can definitely use emotion as part of this internal process. Then there's the thought. It's actually processing mentally what just happened. Like, this is how I feel about it. I can't believe this just happened. And then there's a decision process where the character is kind of weighing their options in the aftermath of whatever action has just happened. And then they decide to actually take action. So I've thought about it, I've made this decision, and this is what I'm going to do. And that internal point of view can help be that transition to the next set of actions. So you're going from action, and then it's emotion, thought, decision, and then moving to another action. If you want to break it down even further, most of this internal process in the thought process internally happens during the thought process. So you have the emotional reaction, and then you have the thought process where you're trying to go through, all right, I'm trying to process what happened, and I have a knee-jerk reaction, which is my emotional state, but your body actually, your mind and body actually trying to process mentally what just happened to you and trying to sort out the emotions and actually figure things out. So what they're going to do is they're going to review what happened. Okay. So you're trying to keep that emotion out, and you're trying to review, okay, so this happened. And then you're going to analyze it, well, where did I go wrong? Or, how did this happen? How can I prevent it from happening again? They're going through that analysis of what happened, and then they're planning. So, okay, So this happened to me. I had a negative outcome, and I'm going to plan ahead and not do that again. So let's say they have an argument with another character. All right. They walk away from the argument. Their emotion is that they're upset and they're distraught and they're angry at that other character. Right? But then their thought process, they're going to say, well, wait a minute. So I can see, where they were wrong, but then, maybe the character is a little bit, I can see from their point of view how they might feel differently. And then so you start to analyze it. Well, was I wrong? Do I need to apologize? Or no, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to be steadfast in my decision. And no, I agree with what I did. Or maybe you don't. Planning is then, well, maybe next time I won't bring that subject up to that person because obviously we have to agree to disagree on this topic. Or maybe in your planning, the character decides that they were wrong and they need to go back and they need to apologize to that character. So then they're making that final decision and then they're acting on it. And so that can be kind of your transition to tying some of those pieces together. There are some instances where just jumping ahead is a better option than mulling through a transition. I do this a lot if there's going to be any kind of a travel or I'm switching points of view. A lot of times I'll just end the chapter there and start the next. And so it's like sequence of events, it ends, there's probably some sort of time here, and then on to the next thing. That's another way to do it as well. But yeah, I think definitely evaluating internal processes, that mental processing of something that just happened to the character is a good way to transition into the next action sequence.